Hello. Hi, everybody. How are you all doing? Good? Awesome. Well, welcome to our post-screening discussion of In Flames. I am Muhammad Muzammal. I'm a PhD candidate here at UC Santa Barbara in the Film and Media Studies Department. My PhD and dissertation is on Pakistani cinema. And with me tonight is Zarrar Kahn, who is a Pakistani-Canadian filmmaker. And he's responsible for today's amazing film, In Flames, and I'm so delighted for him to join us. So let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Mo, for having me, and thank you all for coming out on a Monday night to watch this film. It's been a real thrill to come to Santa Barbara, and I'm very grateful to USBC for programming the film. It's been really lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's get started. Let's begin with early on in your career when you directed short films. In Flames is your debut feature-length film, and I'm interested to know, not just with In Flames, but also with your shorts, do you have an audience in mind when you're making your films? Especially as a scholar or student scholar of Pakistani cinema, I always think about this question, right? Such a niche, up-and-coming film industry, you know, directors, filmmakers, what do they have in mind? Who do they have in mind when they're making it?
I think for me, I started my career in Karachi, Pakistan, and that's where I was making films up until very recently. And at the start of my career, I was like making movies with the idea that like I would want my films to play at like certain festivals or be appreciated by certain audiences. And that's like a really shitty way to approach it. You know, like I kind of learned that the thing I can do is try and be as true to the story that I'm telling and as true to my vision for the story. And that's when my cinema and my story started working better, not just for me, but for audiences. And now I say, ultimately, I'm making films selfishly just for myself, mostly because I edit films, I write them, I direct them, I produce them. I have seen this film like, I don't know, like 2,000 times. You know, like I was in the audience and I'm like, I know I have 15 minutes to go back here and get mic'd, and I know at the 15-minute mark, you know, which is when I left the theater. So
he's right. Like we were in the back room, and he was like, "Yeah, this is 30 minutes left." Like,
and I was listening to the score back there, you know. So ultimately, like you know, a film, especially when you're making the kind of cinema I'm making and the kind of cinema I appreciate, you're gonna live with it for the rest of your life. So it needs to be something that you can carry with you. And so I selfishly make movies for me, and if they resonate with people, that fills me with joy. Because it's always a surprise.
Yeah, for sure. Well, continue to be selfish. Yeah, chase the ego. Well, let's talk about your process in making this specific film. Did the idea for the film come to you during directing your previous shorts before In Flames, or was it separate from those movies?
In 2018, I made a short film called Dia. In 2017, I shot a film on my phone called Pak, which translates to pure. And it was part of a fellowship I was doing at the time, which was by the German embassy in Pakistan, where they were bringing together filmmakers from Pakistan and Afghanistan. So some of the filmmakers flew out from Kabul, and then filmmakers flew out from all over Pakistan. And we were given 25,000 rupees to make a short film, which is like, I'm gonna say like $100 today. So I shot something on my phone, and we screened it in that fellowship, and the response was really good. And it was kind of about a young woman who was dealing with psychosis and dealing with the pressures of a very specific society. And then I made a 23-minute version of that same film that was called Dia, that intercut some of that footage from the original like 8-minute phone video. And that short film screened at Locarno Film Festival in 2018 as part of a program they had called Open Doors, which was when they were bringing in filmmakers from across the world. And it was my first real kind of foray into world cinema. And I got to watch the works of Pedro Costa, John Waters. I got to meet John Waters. Oh, wow. You know, it was this really transformational moment for me where I felt like I was getting to know cinema in a way that I never had before because, you know, my mom's a school principal, my dad's a retired banker. I didn't really grow up in like I wasn't growing up watching Satyajit Ray, you know? Like I told you, we were talking about Mortal Kombat. That was my childhood.
Yeah, we were just like reminiscing on Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta watch that again.
So
it all goes back to Mortal
which
Kombat.
is the original. But yeah, that was in 2018, and that kind of started to really transform my perspective into like storytelling and different methods of stories. And then I spent from 2018 till 2023 making short films about different subject matters in Pakistan, in Karachi. And that was also how I was learning how to both tell film as well as the kind of stories that I'm passionate about. Because my background is in theater. I did my undergrad in theater. I never formally studied film. And I was also getting to travel the world and go to workshops as part of like the Asian Film Academy in Busan, the Filmmakers Lab in Toronto, and I was getting to kind of like learn film at film festivals while making short films. And I say that those short films I made were all training wheels for In Flames because the actors in this film were in my short films. The locations in this film were in my short films. I was able to work with a crew that I had such a shorthand with because they'd been doing all of my shorts for a decade. And this film came out of Telefilm Canada's micro-budget initiative, and it was the reason we were able to pull off the scale of this film that we were was because I had a decade of like building relationships and knowing how to get the most out of Karachi and how to translate that visually. So I'm like a big proponent of short films. I'm shooting another one in a month. Like I continue to use them as clay to test out ideas.
Oh, okay.
And I always advocate, and their own art form as well, but I think it's such a very affordable way to see if something works visually.
Yeah, like a testing ground.
Yeah, but they are its own art form, and that's something I appreciate as well.
Cool, awesome. Well, you talked about how you were a theater major. You talked about your parents. Through other interviews and previous exchanges we've had, I believe you grew up between Canada and Pakistan. How did that back and forth inform your work? Not just the shorts, but obviously this film and even beyond with your current projects, like, you know, being between these two places as you're growing up.
I think for me, I'm really attracted to telling stories of characters who find themselves like at the periphery of society. And some of that definitely stems from the fact that, you know, I am lovely a permanent outsider in different societies where my family kind of bounced between Canada and Pakistan, moving back and forth every 5 to 7 years. And a lot of the artists I admire are like that, you know? I think of the lady who did, I'm so bad right now with names, Beau Travail, please excuse my really shitty French. Claire Denis, and how she's telling stories about masculinity while being a woman, and I'm telling stories about the mother-daughter experience while being a man. You know, and I think there's something there where you can bring that lens, and if you bring it with empathy and honesty, it can create some interesting observations.
Yeah. Sort of like at the periphery, get to the center.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, yeah, you know, this is not the first time you and I spoke. I mean, obviously we spoke before, but we've done a Q&A, right, before last spring. I taught a class.
Via Zoom, which was...
Via Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some interesting delays now. No delays, face to face. You know, I taught a class on Pakistani cinema here at UCSB. It was one of the first courses of this kind offered in the US, and you know, you were a guest at the end, week 10, and the class screened several films that touched on the presence of Islam in Pakistan. We watched movies like Blood of Hussein, Jamil Delavi's movies, Mullah Jat, Zinda Lash, super popular films in their own right in Pakistan. In Flames has several instances where Islam is brought to the forefront as something that all characters in the film in their own ways believe in, whether they're perpetrators of violence or victims of violence. Talk about how you see that relationship between Pakistan, Pakistanis, and Islam, that whole relationship.
I mean, with I think Pakistan, like the US, is like a deeply religious society, and it's difficult to create any kind of art that doesn't speak to that religiosity. And with this film, I wanted to show how religion can both be something that can give you power and give you hope, but also how it's been weaponized to subjugate women. And that's in equal spades to it being something that can bring people together. So I wanted to kind of explore all of those different facets of it, because it's impossible to speak about Pakistani society without commenting on the role that religion has.
Yeah, and I would say mental illness too, right? I think that's a big part of this kind of shared, bond between the mother and the daughter. Yeah, explore that. So one thing that I'm also interested in is the stylistic character of this movie. To me, it certainly feels more polished, right? It's a different sort of blend than the standard song and dance films in the region, and older Pakistani films as well, and Indian movies too, Bollywood. Were you deliberately attempting to offer an alternative vision to how Pakistan, and by extension South Asia, could be depicted on screen to more popular forms?
I mean, I don't deny that I'm really inspired by Satyajit Ray, who was doing this 50 years before me.
Yeah.
I think I just took my references from artists who themselves found themselves on the periphery of their societies. There's also an incredible Bangladeshi film that came out at the dawn of Pakistan that speaks about workers' rights, and that was a film that was at the Moscow Film Festival in the 60s.
Day Shall Dawn?
Day Shall Dawn.
Yeah, from East Pakistan,
yes.
I want to say
modern
50.
day Bangladesh.
Yeah. Modern day Bangladesh.
So, and that's one of the first Pakistani films to travel. So, and people like the horses, Stock, what's his name? Man, I'm bad with names.
Yeah. I'm remembering it too.
Okay, great. But I'm referencing artists who had done the work, but not necessarily the song and dance. Not to say that I don't love those movies as well, because I do, but it's not necessarily the kind of cinema that I see myself creating. But I think there's space for all different types. I will go watch a Karan Johar movie, and then I will go and watch a 5-hour obscure film, and I think...
Mortal Kombat?
Sure, like that one. The most obscure. But I think as someone who's just passionate about cinema and about this medium, it takes all types to create an industry.
Yeah, you mentioned Satyajit Ray. Is there something in particular that draws you to his work?
I think because he's such an auteur and because he was so generous about the way that he saw humanity. It's the most humanistic films I've seen from South Asia, and it felt like, and especially in the last few years, we have this real resurgence of South Asia on global platforms, films like Payal Kapadia's All We Imagine Is Light, films like The Glass Worker, which was Pakistan's first hand-drawn animated film that was at Annexy a couple years ago. Yeah. So we're seeing this real boom right now, but Satyajit was ahead of his time, man. His film, The Big City, every time I got to program that film for the Vancouver Film Festival, and it was such a joy to share some of his movies with audiences who haven't seen them before, because the way he was speaking about issues like feminism, like family, like classism, like wealth, that's where I'm this is the best storytelling medium we have.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and I love that whole kind of reference point that you consciously draw from his work, and so
I'm lucky because he has such a large canon.
Yeah, for sure. You had mentioned your collaborators on this film. Among the many talented people you work with, Ramisha Naval, Bakhtar Mazar, who played Mariam and Fariha respectively in the movie. I believe this was Naval's on-screen debut.
So for both of them, this was their first debut feature film.
Okay.
Ramisha, this was her first time on camera. We met her via Zoom audition during COVID.
There you go, Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom. And I remember being transfixed with how magnetic she was, via her Zoom camera with our shitty Wi-Fi. And despite that, there was something about her. She has such a presence. And it was such a joy working with her on this film. And I think a lot of that is because she's also an oldest daughter. She's also from Karachi. So there was a lot that she could mine from her own life when putting together this character. And she's going to go so far. She's incredible. And Bakhtawar is equally incredible.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to work with her on the short version of this film. And she, through this movie, and she also did 2 other features. One is called Wakri, and the other is called Queen of My Dreams.
Okay.
She's having a real mid-career resurgence.
Yeah.
In Pakistan, the bread and butter of cinema is these TV dramas, like K-dramas. And she recently got to play one of the leading mom roles, and she went viral.
Wow.
So it's been really lovely seeing how this film has transformed not only my life, but the lives of so many people who went on this journey with me.
So what's interesting, kind of a little anecdote, is this is not the first time I'm seeing it in person. I saw this movie at the Roxy Theater at the in Tribeca.
Oh shit.
Yeah, 18 months ago.
Dope.
And I was too shy.
I was there. You should have said hello.
I know, but you were getting flooded by so many people, and they were there.
Theater.
Yeah, they were there, and I think that whole week that was the only showtime. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there a reason why it didn't get much? It didn't seem like it got a huge distribution.
It got a challenging distribution, which I can have a conversation with off camera.
Yeah. But anyways, it was a cool event.
Independent cinema is hell.
Yeah. It's tough. But yeah, I met them there. So, so throughout film history in Pakistan, you talked about Shota Jitra and Jaga Hua Savera, Day Shall Dawn. There's been movies like Ram Chand Pakistani, Marine Jabbar's film, Bol, 2011, Orth Raj.
Amazing film.
Yes, we should
It's a Pakistani sci-fi movie that everyone should watch.
Yes, very cool movie. Saving Face, They're Killing the Horse, right? Really interesting films that deal with the question of a woman's role in Pakistani society. Did any of these films influence your work, especially?
I will say They're Killing the Horse, definitely.
Okay.
Because when I saw that film and the way that they were bringing in religion, because there's also Shia procession over there, it's more on the nose about its themes of mental health. But that was a film I had seen prior and was really inspired by its visual language and also the emotion that I was left with. With Saving Face, I know Sharmeen. She was my first. So Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, for those who don't know, is a Pakistani Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker. She's won 2 Oscars for her incredible films. She was my first job in Pakistan when I moved back.
Oh.
So I interned with her, and she's a force. And while it wasn't her cinema that necessarily inspired me, because she makes a very specific type of documentary filmmaking,
right.
And it's more specific artistically and a different specificity than what I'm drawn to. It was her approach and her humanity and the way that she was so driven to achieve her goals. I was watching her work really inspired me. Yeah, she's an incredible person.
Yeah, it's such a powerful documentary. It's only 45 minutes. You could find it on YouTube, and it won the Oscar that year.
Yeah, HBO Max, I think.
Yeah. But and I think she's working on a Marvel project.
I think so.
I read, so
yeah,
interesting. So I also want to talk about the poster, which I love. This poster here, it's it appears to be hand drawn, or it's really fascinating, and it's so artful, and there's been variations of the poster of In Flames. I think this is not the only one. There's been others. Now, Pakistan has a rich history of posters for movies. What was the process like of selecting the poster and representing the film through the press kit? Talk about that.
One of my first jobs was as a graphic designer and as a yearbook editor, and so I've always been really drawn to visuals and posters and how an image can tell you so much about a film, and also I love having a frame poster of my movie. So I wanted something that I was excited to put on my wall. And I had just watched this movie called The Peasants, which was a film, and animated. Every frame was hand-drawn. It was Poland's submission, and it was by the same team who did the Van Gogh biography the year before.
Yeah.
So I DM'd on Instagram one of the animators, and I told him who I was, and he responded. And then we started the process of making this poster. And there's kind of these anamorphic figures that are around both Fariha and Mariam in the background that are haunting them. But it was important to have the reflection of both of them in that and show that they're both going through a similar journey, and that the power of them together, which is kind of why they're blending into each other. In the process of getting it designed with the artist of the poster, who is phenomenal, and everyone's names are not on my head today, but I will happily share his Instagram handle if anyone's interested.
Cool. Awesome. Well, with the recent successes at the Cannes Film Festival, the International Film Circuit with In Flames, and Joyland, right, which premiered at Cannes the year before your film, and then the release of The Glassworker, which you mentioned, Pakistan's first feature-length, hand-drawn animation film. What is your feeling and thoughts on the future of cinema in Pakistan?
I am hopeful. I know how much of a nightmare it is to get anything made, and each of these films were financed outside of Pakistan. Me and one of my producing partners are currently running a fellowship out of Pakistan that finances one short film by a Pakistani artist to be shot in Pakistan every year, seeing the short film as a tool to getting their feature made. So I think as long as that kind of investment continues, as long as interest from international audiences like the people in this room, because unfortunately there are no funding bodies in Pakistan, there are no tax incentives. To get a film made anywhere in the world is so difficult, but to get a film made in a country where there isn't an infrastructure, where distribution is also challenging because of a lack of cinemas, is doubly hard. So the fact that our films have performed internationally, that encourages both the artists in Pakistan to keep working, but also know that there's a pathway for them to create films in Pakistan and it be an economically viable career. And off of this, there's this incredible short film that was Pakistan's first short film at Cannes that was this year. And it's called Karmash. It should hopefully be out on the festival circuit or internationally in a year or two. And it's by a filmmaker. He made this on $150. And it was at Director's Fortnight, and it's the first time that's ever happened. So we're seeing this momentum continue. There's been pockets of that before, but I'm optimistic that it'll continue and just keep going this time around.
Yeah, and you and I spoke about how there's certain tools available to filmmakers now, AI, iPhone.
The internet.
The internet, and there's discourse on it in the negative, but in a way, you can manipulate it to positive ends, right? It's like the digital film debate.
I think so. I'm deeply concerned about some of the tech that is coming out. But I think, tools are tools, and it depends on whose hands they're in.
Yeah. Well, in terms of, Pakistan, with all these challenges of making a film in Pakistan, is that something that you envision yourself continuing to do for your career, making movies about Pakistani characters? Is that something you want to, do something else,
I mean, my next film, the protagonist is a Pakistani Canadian, and it's about a young woman who loses her partner in the floods in Pakistan.
Wow.
And then she returns to a small town university in Canada, where she is studying drama, and she's cast in an adaptation of Hamlet. And she's kind of pushed to the edge by a really toxic director, and then she quits the play, and that night is visited by the ghost of her dead partner, who tells her that the floods are going to come and destroy the university. So I'm kind of leaning on my experiences now of growing up both in Pakistan and in Canada and with theater to create stories that I hope bridge all of those communities. And it's also a loose adaptation of Hamlet, and feel like we're having a real resurgence of that story right now.
Well, with Chloe Zhao's new movie, Hamnet,
with
right?
Riz Ahmed's Hamlet.
Yeah, hey, Pakistani.
I think, when things take a turn towards the conservative, these kind of age-old stories become really important.
Yeah, and there was Haider
Yeah.
a few years ago, which
Yeah.
was a, adaptation of Hamlet
Exactly.
in Kashmir.
Yeah.
So, hey,
Beautiful film.
beautiful film, yeah. So majority of some of our people in the audience today are majors, and I'm sure other people in the audience tonight are aspiring filmmakers. People want to break into the industry. You've spoken about in this interview and with me, right, the challenges of independent filmmaking. What is like pieces of advice you would like to share to just break into someone who wants to be a filmmaker?
I would say, everyone's in a real rush to make your first feature, but the issue is that like really filmmakers get judged by their first feature, and it's very difficult to make a second one. Most filmmakers don't get to. So I would say take your time, learn your craft, find out what stories are important to you, and really approach that first film, that first feature-length film, as something that you hope you will be happy watching until you're like 70, or 80 or 90.
Do you imagine that with this?
Oh yeah, for sure. And then if you're more emerging and you're trying to make your first short film, I would say lean on your community. Those will often be the first people to champion you.
Cool. Awesome. Well, in terms of like movies that you're seeing nowadays, like in the past, are there like any current day influences that you're drawing from? You talked about like Hamlet. We have Chloe Zhao's. Is there some contemporary directors?
There's a film I just saw at TIFF that was made by this 24-year-old Kenyan-Swiss director.
Yes.
It's called The Memory of Princess Mumbi, and it is Afro sci-fi story of a young man who goes into Kenya in 2084 to make a movie about a young woman he fell in love with, and then it turns out she's a princess and she's already betrothed, so it kind of becomes this royal romance. Yeah. And it's such a beautiful film that's so optimistic about the future. And I loved it. It uses AI, and that was something I was really worried about. But the film was made on $20,000, and it uses AI to create these beautiful matte paintings. And it's the kind of movie where I'm looking at this technology that I'm really fearful of, but it's using it to create cinema that would never get the opportunity otherwise to exist. So that's where it's very much a filmmaker's film. I was telling you I love movies that are about making movies, like Day for Night, another one of my favorite movies of all time. But this movie, I left the theater just so happy about what this medium can be and what it can continue to be. So that was probably my most exciting film that I've seen recently. That and Kneecap. Do people know that film? It's an Irish movie about an Irish band called Kneecap who start rapping in their own native language, and then shit hits the fan, and it's an incredible, powerful, visceral film.
That reminds me, there is a Riz Ahmed movie where he's a rapper.
Yes, there is.
Mogul Mowgli.
Yes.
Check that out too.
But Kneecap first.
Yes, Kneecap first, and you can, So I have another question about genre. So what's really, you've talked about sci-fi a lot, like you've talked about.
That's where my head is now.
Yeah. And this film, like, it's touted as a horror film, but you seem to be really playing with so many genres here. Is that something that comes from your theater background? Like, talk about like how you like to play with genre. Like, is there a specific?
I like genre, but when people say genre, they think of horror automatically, and I just like genre, which is why there's 4 of them in this film. Okay. I was inspired by D'Argento in terms of horror, as well as Jordan Peele, as well as Julia Ducournau, who did Titan. These are all kind of like my more horror genre influences, but I also like one time made a rock and roll musical, and I've made comedies. I like what genre can do where you have these familiar elements that draw your audience in, and then when you subvert them or when you play with them, I find that like really exciting. And so, and that's also the kind of stuff that excites me. Like I remember seeing Nope by Jordan Peele, which is like a cowboy, alien, brother-sister road trip movie. And I love that it was all of those things in one film. And I'm really getting my money's worth for my ticket because I'm watching 4 different movies in one. So I love when filmmakers are inventive like that. It makes me excited about the medium.
Yeah, and speaking of a movie about making movies, I feel like Nope was like his movie about
Also one of those.
Yeah.
You know, and I think every filmmaker will do that at some point in their career.
Would you do that?
100%.
Making a film about the film you're
Definitely.
making.
Once I've made enough movies.
Yeah, it's like a threshold.
Yeah.
Like you have to.
I think you have to do 4.
4. That's the magic number.
Yeah.
Okay, so in like X amount of years, you'll be back, and we're going to talk about
Except it takes me 8 years to make a movie, so. You
Does
know?
that? Yeah. Does the time get better? Like, do you?
No, it doesn't.
No.
I'm on like year 6 right now, so.
Of the next film.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you spoke about earlier the short film process of like you made a few shorts, then In Flames. I mean, how much of that was because of funding, you know, the conditions regarding funding and financing versus you weren't ready for the feature yet?
I would say it's the both. It's both of them together because it was my last short it wasn't my last short, it was the one before the one that I had that allowed me to access funding through Canada. There was a stream where if your film plays at like these 6 film festivals, you're eligible for financing. So I was able to play one of those 6 and then I was eligible to apply for financing. But simultaneously I was learning the craft, I was learning about what stories inspire me. So it was both of those things together.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think, that's, it from my end. I think we're going to take some questions from the audience.
Hi, thank you very much. I really enjoyed watching the movie. I'm very much interested in how you foresee yourself presenting on a stage. So do you see any of your movies being impacted by theater or being staged on a stage? Yeah, I'm just asking because the mixture of all genres makes it so interesting, and I'm just picturing this being staged in a theater and how interesting that would be. And yeah, just to be sure again, how long did it take you to shoot In Flames and put everything together? Thank you.
Beautiful question. I am an ex-theater person who is making my way back to theater. And I would love to see this stage. I think that would be really beautiful. I would definitely not do it myself. I'd give it to people who are more confident in that ability. But I would, I love when plays are adapted into cinema, and I'd love for it to go back the other way, but like not with a Miss Doubtfire kind of film. So that would be something really special for me. And in terms of how long it took to make this movie, this was a 27-day shoot. And I started developing it in 2017, and we shot it in 2022. And then we premiered it at Cannes in 2023, and then I promoted it for a year and a half. So all in all, and I'm still here actually with the film. So yeah, it was getting it off the ground took around 6 to 7 years, which is standard, I believe, in films.
Okay. All right, thank you. I must say that I also enjoyed your film a lot, and I'm quite fascinated with the rich soundscape that is foregrounded in the film. I just would like to know whether this decision comes from your own style or is kind of influenced by the kind of environment within which the film is set. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Working on the soundscape was one of the greatest joys of the film, and I'm happy that it resonated with you. My sound mixer was Brett Killeran, who's a real artist, and we mixed it in Toronto over Christmas break, And it was really important while we're sitting in Toronto in the middle of a snowstorm, to feel like we are in Karachi and to have the soundscape of Karachi. So a lot of the noises that you hear, some of them were like recorded on my phone on WhatsApp, and I sent it to Brett when I was in Pakistan, and then he was able to recreate it with his Foley designer, Christy McIntyre, who kind of made those same sounds hyper real. And there's a sound in the film that's quite important, which is the metal clanging sound. And that's kind of an Easter egg for audiences who are from Pakistan, because it's a sound that if you live in a city like Karachi, late at night there'll be security guards who kind of patrol neighborhoods, and they're clanging this metal baton to let people know that they're out there and that it is safe. And it's a sound that I remember as a child in Karachi, and I never knew what it was, so it really unnerved me. And then it came from the idea of how do we take the sounds of safety but utilize to show these characters for who nowhere is safe. And it was how do we distort these sounds off that city and also honor the sounds of that city. So the sound is one of my favorite tools of cinema. Also, when you're working on a tight budget, it allows you to dream bigger. And because sound can do so much to transform the experience of an audience, especially when you're in a cinema like this, where the sound is incredible.
Congratulations on a really gorgeous film. I really loved it. I noticed in the film that the depiction of women were hardworking and strong, and that men were going to pretend to do something nice and then totally take advantage of the women. And I was wondering if that you did that depiction on purpose, and what informed that idea that to me seemed to be really strong. Again, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, the intention was to make a film that talks about the horrors of the patriarchy. And also, I grew up in a family where I had my grandmother, my mother, my sister. Many of my female colleagues on this film are incredible, powerful women. And that's not to say that the men in this film, we have the cop who comes to visit them at home, who tells them that, to warn them about what's happening. We have the lawyer, but I wanted to give a realistic depiction of what it's like for these incredible women I know, and how they navigate that society. And this is very much the story of these two women. It's not all men, but it's specifically about these two women and how they are navigating society and the challenges they face. And that was always the intention.
Has this played in Pakistan, and if so, how has it gone down?
We self-distributed this in Pakistan. Me and my producer, Anam Abbas, we released it in Karachi, Lahore, which are the two major cities. It was polarizing, which we knew it would be. It was a challenge to self-distribute it. We didn't want to do that, but we weren't able to get a distributor because of the subject matter. But it was really important for us to get this film in front of that audience. And recently, it was released on a digital streaming platform in Pakistan, which is where so many more people are now watching and embracing the film. I'll say, because the digital kind of leans towards one specific audience, it's been more like widely embraced there, versus in theaters, it was really creating a conversation. But that's something I always wanted to do, and I'm grateful that we were able to get it into cinemas.
Great bill for a post-Halloween in Karachi. I'm still trying to place your apparitions, whether they're literal or figural. And I think they kind of hover in between. And I'm thinking of, in this case, almost all of them are malevolent. There's also the tradition in Asian films where Apichatpong is a great example, where the past kind of comes as a ghost, but you kind of cohabit the space with them. They don't really harm anyone, right? So how do you place these? Like, are they only malevolent, benevolent also, or just like cohabitation in the same way? And literal, figural, where would you?
For me, they were like intended to be an extension of the terrors that both mother and daughter are experiencing, and when those terrors are really at their peak, these figures come out, or when they're feeling really vulnerable. So I kind of saw them as an extension of the psychology of those characters in those minutes, and playing with memory and horror and how you project that onto the world. And that's how these figures came to be. And they also stemmed from a lot of the women I know who would talk about always having this feeling of being watched in Pakistan, especially if they're in public places. And that's why the first time we see these figures, it's in public places. It's on the side of the road, it's at the beach, before they move into these more intimate spaces. And that's kind of the terror becoming closer to them. So that was kind of how that idea developed, being inspired by and having seen Apichapong's work. And also the stories of jinns in our own culture of being watched, and these figures always looming around, and feeling like it was a perfect fit for the film that I wanted to tell.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming on a Monday night. It was such a pleasure, and most importantly, thank you to Zarrar for a wonderful movie, great conversation. Yeah, feel free to stay after if you want a signed poster from Zarrar, but thank you so much for the event.